Hey folks, it's gonna be my first upload in like about 2 weeks. Um, as you all know, if you've seen the last video, I did relapse after 6.5 months of hard mode, 8.5 months of easy mode, and so for the last 2 weeks, I've basically been going through relapses, and some binging to put it lightly, but been about 5 times, and I've varied between like getting a week. I think there was the first the first one occurred a week after the initial relapse, and then um, since then it's been about like 3 days between each. However, I'm getting back on the path. I'm just gonna, like I said, try to finish out the year as strong as I can. The next 16 weeks are gonna really make a lot of difference, as to what I do and how I go about things, and maybe I can regain that momentum. That'll be like the idea, get through the last 4 months of the year and then be able to say, well, I only was on PMO for 2 weeks, out of the year. So, um, so that being said, um, I kind want to update you folks on just where things are at, and just maybe go a little bit into some of my thoughts on why I've been relapsing like 5 times total, including the initial relapse, and why the binging and all that sort of stuff. But as I said, I'm back in San Jose. School started. It's been about a week since the first day of classes, and things have been obviously picking up. But one of the main issues has been that the school put a hold on my financial aid, an excessive units hold, because I have so many units from being at different schools and retaking classes before I transferred here and so on. And um, due to that, they basically say, I've taken so long. They want to make sure that I'm on the path that I'm supposed to be on, taking the classes and that sort of thing. And if I'm not, then okay, they'll take away the financial aid for good, or if I am, then they'll give it back. But this happened last year, and I had to go through the whole petition process, and they gave back the aid for one more year, and now I'm having to go through this again. So I've just been really contending with a lot of anxiety and depression, feelings of hopelessness, and so on as of late. And that's been like one of, if not, I think the biggest reason why I have been, at least in the immediate sense, why I've been, relapsing and binging, because I wanted to get away from it all, and kind of check out, so to speak. And compared to the anxiety, the feelings of hopelessness, like I said, I use the word depression, but basically just sadness, feeling overwhelmed. Compared to that, the immediate pleasures of PMO have seemed, and as much as I should know better. As much as I should know better, they seem better. They seem like, okay, if I can just go and do that thing, PMO, I can get, I get some good feelings going, basically. Um, I have done some cardio here and there. I have done some calisthenics and that sort of deal, but um, unless you do really intensive stuff, it only kind of just takes the edge off. And uh, in most cases that can be enough. But I think to dig deeper, it's not a matter of having urges. It's not really a matter of necessarily using the internet too much or things of that nature. It's it's something that I have come across in the past, and recently I was watching this interview with I think it was Gary Wilson. He's the guy who wrote Your Brain on Porn. He started the website, and I think he's a professor of physiology and anatomy. He's one of the big guys in the Nofap movement as far as actual like scientific, intellectual, figures that people who are, they have their doctorate and hard science, and they can actually say, this isn't just some um, sciencey, Y&C woo type stuff. This actually has, a basis in reality. You talk about the reward circuit and dopamine and delta phos B and the brain getting wired to certain stimuli as opposed to other stimuli and so on. This the actual science of PMO addiction, in particular internet porn addiction. Um, but I was watching this interview of his, and there was one thing that really struck me in that interview that I relate to, the more recent events, and that was him talking about how, like, someone who could be an alcoholic and they've been sober for 6 months, 8 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, and they end up, one night out of the blue, they end up walking down this street where there's like a bar. Maybe it was even a bar they frequented back in the day when they were raging alcoholics, or were the person was a raging alcoholic, let's say, and you know they went to that bar back in the day when they were in that state, and now they're they've been sober for 6 months, 8 months, a year, 2 years, whatever, and they're walking by there and they hear the clink of the glass, and the laughter or whatever, and that initiates a series of chemical reactions in their brain that then brings back that memory, of what things were like back then, and um, unless they have the immediate willpower or the awareness, or they're perhaps in a crowd with some folks who themselves are sober and know what's going on, and hey, let's not go do this, dude. You're 8 months sober, you're 2 years sober, you're 3 years sober. Let's not throw this down the drain. Unless they're in that kind of a state of mind or a group of people, they can and do oftentimes end up relapsing. They'll go into the bar and they'll start drinking. They'll have a drink and two and three, and pretty soon they're back into being drunk. And this is someone who maybe they got through 3 years of being completely sober, alcohol free, and it's almost like it's they're back to square one now. And I thought about this whole anecdote and the point that he was making, and I had to say that, like, I think if I were to really try to put in those words like that, that's essentially what has happened, and how I've been feeling for the last 2 weeks. Actually, I was even feeling like that way before the initial relapse, where it was like kind of going back into holding patterns, being back in an environment that elicited certain emotions and memories and routines. And it's like, and this is something that even I think Off the Train also talked about this as well. I wish the guy was still around. I mean, I suggest going to his channel, and watching some of his videos and maybe even subscribing. I don't know if he's really coming back sometime. I don't know, but he had talked about this as well, where you have past memories, past traumas, past events that created those same emotions, and as something in your present reality happens, that there's sort of a correspondence between the two. It can bring you back into that emotional state, and if when you were in that negative emotional state, you PMO'd, or you drank, or you smoked, or whatever, that that can end up being your go-to thing once more, and you can, before you know it, you're drinking, you're PMOing, or whatever, and it's not necessarily like a fully thought through, reasoned, set of actions. It's something you're doing as a physical follow-up or result of an emotional reaction. And I've been feeling like that in a sense, actually quite literally I've been feeling like that. I've been feeling like I felt back in 2008 after I completed working over the summer back in um, back in my home county, let's say, and then I went back to school, and it was a matter of having to try to find funds, money to pay for school, and also it's like I'm feeling like I'm back in 2015 when I finally got out of my parents' home. Second time around, it had taken me, several years to recover from the trauma of dropping out of one school and then having to go back home and all the psychological abuse I went through because of that from my folks, and then of course all the disruptions and destruction caused by my mother and my sister. Partially not their fault, partially their fault because of alcoholism and drug usage and so on, and smoking. Um, I've gotten that kind of feeling of 2015, end of the summer, beginning of fall, 2008, end of the summer, beginning of the fall, and kind of like just that whole feeling of like you're almost about to make escape velocity. It's like 7 meters per second, I think, is what you have to make to be able to lift off from the surface of the earth and go, to outer space beyond the von Karman line, that official demarcation that marks the difference between the atmosphere and outer space. And it's like you're about to get there. You're like at 6.9 meters per second, and then something happens. One of the engines fails, one of the wings flies off, something occurs, the fuel line gets clogged up for some odd reason, whatever, and suddenly you're going from 6.9 down to 6, down to 5, down to 4, down to 3, and you're crashing, and it's kind of like that whole set of emotions that I'm feeling, being yanked back to that time, thinking, well, I went through these 2 years, didn't I make some progress? Well, in a sense I did, but it's being made to feel like that could just be thrown away in an instant. And I had like a series of arguments with my father about all of this, where he kind of presented things to me as if, that I was screwed, that you're not going to have money for school, I'm not going to be able to help, or I'm not going to want to help. But at the same time, expecting me, oh, well, you have to graduate in the next 2 years so that I can go back to school and get my master's, finish up my master's in comp sci or whatever, and become a consultant and all that sort of stuff. And that's what led to the second relapse. Then following that, after I had put things to him in a way that he finally kind of started to see the light and changed around, then it was okay, now I gotta do all this paperwork to put that into the financial aid office, and then I have to go talk to the bursar's office, talk to an account manager, try to negotiate something with them. And there's all this anxiety with that, because it's not so much the school in and of itself. Yeah, I'm frustrated with them because their logic has been kind of a lazy man's logic as far as I'm concerned, looking at my number of units and assuming that I must have used financial aid for all of them and that I'm not on track and so on, even if I've gone through this whole process already, etc., etc., etc. Excuse me. But my bigger source of anxiety is dealing with my father. And I have to accept the fact that he's a human being, just like myself. He has his hopes, his dreams, his fears, his flaws, his strengths, so on and so forth. But there are definite issues there. It's almost like I feel like the servant who's run away from home, and finally escaped the serf who has run away from his liege lord, finally escaped to the town, and it's like, oh, he wasn't able to get an artisan's job, so now he's running out of money, and he's having to look at going back to the fields and hoping that the liege lord will only give him 50 lashes, not 100, before putting him back to work. that kind of feeling. And it's kind of like with some of the toxic friends I've had in the past, where um, they may have acted frustrated or annoyed with me for having my failures and my problems in life, but the fact that I had those failures and problems and the things in my way that were blocking me away from, getting out into the world and establishing myself and becoming independent. Um, those things meant that unless they changed, I would, in one sense or another, always be there, and they would always have their quote unquote drinking buddy. Not that I drink, but in the metaphorical sense, like people have that saying. I think it's an American saying that if you want to quit drinking, you gotta quit your drinking buddies. Well, as long as those things were in my way in life, I would always end up being there. And because I was always end up being there, they would always have their drinking buddy. And as frustrated as these friends and I would be with life, there was sort of a comfortability in it. And of course, the irony is when it got to the point where I was tired of being comfortable, and I was wanting to get out there and do something with my life, and get my act together, and quit wallowing in the misery of my past failures. It turns out that these folks who, until that point, were friends and had my back and supported me and all that kind of stuff, suddenly, they weren't with me. They were against me. And it's the same situation with my family, which is kind of ironic given that even if I were to go back and try to be quote unquote helping them, basically being their servant or their slave, the best way for me to do that would be honestly to take care of my education, finish my degree finally, get a decent paying position somewhere, maybe even get a master's degree and do that thing, become a full-time engineer and make a decent salary, and then I would be able to help in a real meaningful, effective way. And that's if I was going to do that. Obviously, me being 30, going on 31, I'll be 31 in like 19, 20 days. September the 18th is my birthday, so 30 going on 31. And currently, having my girlfriend and having all these goals and hopes and dreams and whatnot, I obviously want to go off and do my own thing, and I have the right to do that, and in a lot of ways, in the long run, again, it would be better, not just for myself, but for my family as well, But all that being said, it's always in this case of like I said, being the runaway serf, finally getting out of the house, finally having the independence, and the sort of earned respect of, hey, Dad, I don't live off of your dollars anymore. I live off of my own money, and I lived under the roof of this house from which I rent a room. The people here I rent the room from, I pay the rent. I do all this kind of stuff. I'm an adult. I'm on my own, and kind of having that sort of be like you're clinging to a raft, and you're hoping that the sharks don't come and get you, because the moment you slip off or fall off the raft, you're in shark-infested waters, and they're there to take advantage of you and chew you up and spit you out, And as much as my father will try and help me, he has his side where it's almost like he's bipolar in a sense, where one day of the week he's on my side. He's let's go get this, let's go take care of this. We're gonna solve this. He'll get it. He won't miss the forest for the trees in that moment. But then, and I know a lot of this stuff comes from my mother, without a doubt. But then he'll go and flip 180 degrees, and it's just like, Dad, do you not get how this affects me? Do you not care? And in the midst of all this, I realized that even with all the relapses and the binging and such, And this is the really hard part of it all. A hard part of life is that as much as we may need to acknowledge the things that are outside of our control and the things we've inherited and the things that are truly someone else's fault, I know that the only way this is going to get better is if I do something about it. And I know I've said that a bazillion times over, but it's something that has to be repeated again and again because it's like the long-term vision, you know. Um, I have to be my own cheerleader and repeat the slogan again and again and again so that I don't forget. And obviously, when I'm relapsing, when I'm binging, I'm forgetting. I'm forgetting so many things. And that's without getting into things like the chaser effect and brain fog and so on, which obviously makes me more sensitive to anxieties, whether that's about classes or money or what have you. Um, but that's what's been happening, and those are some of the realizations I've had, um, and those are the times when it's really difficult when I'm having those kind of emotional reactions because obviously those are times when I'm at my weakest, you know. And I think I said way like I don't know 100 something videos ago, but the way I've looked at with Nofap, at least for myself, is that when I'm on Nofap, that's me, you know, jumping in the ring and taking the fight to the enemy, so to speak, you know, and I'm throwing punches and I'm dodging and I'm boxing. I'm in the ring and I'm not out for the count, you know. But when I relapse and especially when I binge, it's like that's me being down for the count, you know, and um, obviously me hoping that I rise before the final buzzer goes off and the whole thing's KO, you know, I'm out, you know, completely. And that's why it's really difficult when these things happen because obviously it's like you're in relapse mode. You might not have relapsed yet. It's purely you're in the emotional stage, or you're in the mental stage. If you haven't quote unquote relapsed all the way, but obviously the fact that you're there is because you're at a really weak point, and it is really something about awareness, you know. Because I do see that I do lose awareness of the context of things, and it's like it's really is this addict mind. The whole I don't care, I just want to feel good right now. I don't care, I just want to be away from my problems. I don't care, I just want to forget about all this right now. Even though trying to feel good in that sense, trying to run away from your problems, trying to forget about everything, logically it makes things worse. But it's like that loss of awareness, that loss of willpower, that feeling of kind of reliving this trauma from the past, and feeling like, in my case, at least at 30 years old, being made to feel like some 10-year-old kid who's having to, like, beg and plead for his dad not to, spank him. Even though maybe he did mouth off, maybe he did something bad. And kind of feeling like in that position, not necessarily literally, but in the emotional sense, of just like you're at somebody's mercy, and if they decide that your dreams and hopes and goals are not worth it in their eyes, well, it doesn't matter what you think or feel. It's what they think or feel that matters. Okay, I think that's over with. So yeah, where am I going from now? Honestly, I think I'm just gonna try to get to Sunday without another relapse, and I'm gonna go from there. Cause that'll be 4 days, and if I toss another 3 days onto there, double it up basically, then I'll be on a week. Um, and in order to do that, I think the underlying deal is going to be keeping myself as busy as I can and actually doing stuff that at least makes me feel like I'm going forward. Um, Obviously, it'd be best if it's stuff that actually makes me go forward, like getting these forms filled out and turned in and all that, which will have to be done by Friday. So today, tomorrow, Friday, I'll be using these days to actually get those things done and turned in, and that's probably gonna be the biggest thing. I will be going out, exercising, running, doing push-ups and crunches and so on, but that stuff again, takes the edge off, but the underlying issue or issues have to be confronted and overcome. It's kind of like I could turn off my laptop, I could send it off in the mail to some other place, some storage place, have it kept there. I could do all these things, get rid of the internet completely, like I don't have a smartphone that works anymore. I just have a flip phone. So, has that decreased internet usage? Well, yeah, because I can't take my laptop into the bathroom for one thing, and it's not like, oh, I turn off the laptop and then I have my smartphone so I can lay in bed with my smartphone and be on the internet, or on YouTube or whatever. But the real question, with all this stuff, whether it's porn addiction, internet addiction, I don't know, being addicted to chocolate and fatty foods, what is the real issue that's going on? It's like off the train has said, alcohol in and of itself is not addictive. In and of itself, it's not addictive. It's when you have other problems in your life that you're not dealing with, that maybe you feel you can't deal with, that you can't overcome, that you want to run away from and hide from for a few hours, let's say at the bar, to use the alcohol example. Those are the things that turn alcohol into an addictive thing, because you keep on turning to it when the bad stuff comes and happens, and you don't do anything about the bad stuff, so the bad stuff stays there and it grows and grows and grows, and so therefore your dependency or your relationship with alcohol, let's say, using that example, grows and grows and grows and becomes an addiction. Just like with PMO, I had this moment of realization earlier today where it was like, it was the last time I went and actually looked anything up, porn content wise. And I end up saying to myself, because the stuff I was looking up was kind of like, it was like, okay, in one of my classes yesterday, we got put into like pairs, and I paired off with this one girl to work on this class problem. She was kind of cute. So the stuff I was looking at that final time was basically like, it was like it was kind of running under the mentality of, or the idea of, find content that has a girl that looks kind of like that girl and then PMO to that, but I told myself, I have a girlfriend, so, and even if I did, I said, if I'm not going to go out there and actually do something about it, meaning, for whatever reason, maybe, I have a girlfriend, so therefore I'm not single, so therefore it would be cheating, so therefore I'm not going to do it, or I'm single, but I'm afraid of getting rejected, or, I don't want to end up in a compromising situation because I'm, waiting until marriage, or even if I wasn't, I don't want to end up blah blah blah. Whatever reason I could come up with for not doing it. If I'm not gonna go and actually do that, then I shouldn't be looking that kind of stuff up. I shouldn't be fantasizing. I shouldn't be PMOing. I shouldn't be doing any of that sort of stuff because, you know, not only do I feel the negative effects, but in and of itself, it's just kind of like what's the point? You know, what is the point if you're so desirous of that kind of stuff? In a sense, in terms of its real life manifestation, then pursue it. You know, it's like the saying, poop or get off the pot. Either you go for it or you just drop it. And dropping it means no, you're not going to go and get on thus and such website and look up some sexual content and pretend like you're doing it. And finally, I had another realization while I was walking to cafeteria to buy some breakfast. And obviously, it was college campus, so there are young girls, young women walking by, attractive ones, so on and so forth. And I had this sort of moment, this sort of epiphany. And it was that I realized that I'm actually attracted to real women. Well, maybe it's pheromones, maybe it's literally their looks. They're actually way cuter and more attractive than any of the fake women in these videos and so on. But I realized that's what I really want. I want an actual real woman, like my girlfriend. Because when I was with her over in Morocco, it was being with her, I was a different person in a positive sense. Yeah, I still had some of my shyness, but that wore off. And it got to the point where I was genuinely happy and I was expressive and open and emotionally available and comfortable in my own skin. And that's what I want. A real girl, real relationship, face to face. Not me seeing it from a screen, rubbing one out to videos or pictures of other people doing it and imagining myself in situations that are either utterly unrealistic or, in the functional frame of mind, in a functional frame of mind, disgusting. The kind of stuff that you wouldn't want to admit in public because it's all a fetish, and it's an extreme fetish because you've been watching this stuff for so long that you've escalated to that point. And I think that in reality, the vast majority of us, if not all of us, we want that real relationship. And we want to have the capabilities, the courage, the status, the resources, all that kind of stuff to be able to go out there without a fear of rejection, without the fear of loss, and be able to handle things and be able to get that quality relationship. And I think fundamentally deep down inside, all of us realize that if we're not actually pursuing our dreams, our goals, our hopes, there's no real point in fantasizing about it, whatever that may be. And the porn addiction is a subset of that. Constant improvement videos, I think it was, he said, the internet addiction is the problem. That's the underlying problem. To a certain extent, I do agree with them, but I like to try and look deeper because you're still talking about an addiction, so there's deeper issues at hand. But whatever those things are, they're manifesting in a manner of an addiction to fantasy, And I think that we're all ultimately trying to get away from that. We're trying to get away from the computer screen. We're trying to get away from the screen of our phones. We're trying to gain control over our lives, and then turning our lives into things that are actually like, we want to live. The kind of lives we want to live that, are so decent, good, and happy and fulfilling that we wouldn't choose a phone screen or a computer screen or some video over our lives. So, anyways, this is gonna count as a day one video, and I'm gonna get back to making more videos because, again, I don't think, actually not again, but I don't think I said this in this video. I made like 4 or 5 other videos, over the course of my binging, and I ended up deleting them because it was just kind of like me starting over again every time, oh, today's day one, oh, today's day one. But one thing I do remember mentioning in one of those videos was, let's see, what was it? Dang it. It'll probably come to me after I end this video, but oh, I remember now. I think another serious, underlying issue is that, and this started way back when I went back to San Diego at the beginning of the summer, but I surrendered my agency and I stopped progressing in life. I got off my path. I was making videos all the time. I was working out. I was looking for a job. I was doing all this kind of stuff, moving myself forward, and I stopped doing that. And I think as of late, this is probably a side effect of the whole, I relapsed at 6.5 months and I thought I was going to get to a full year of hard mode and so on. But I stopped making videos, and I stopped making videos because I kind of didn't see the point, But I'm seeing the point now because I had to recalibrate everything and go, okay, so you didn't get to a year. Does that mean you throw away the rest of the year? No. You didn't get to just 1 relapse, 2 relapses, 3 relapses, or binging sessions, whatever. Are you going to throw away the rest of the year? No. I'm trying to look at it right now in terms of weeks. So, that being said, this will be the end of this video, and I will be making more videos, and I will try to actually do some decent, helpful topics, because this has mostly been just me kind of recapping, processing, making some observations, but mostly musing over recent events. But maybe I'll make the rest of the videos like relapse recover. Like you get so far in the relapse, what are you gonna do? Well, okay, here's what you can do. I know Matt's what it has done some of those videos, but maybe I can get my angle on it. So, anywho, enough of my rambling and whinging. So I'll see you folks around. Thanks for watching the content I'm making, and thanks for putting out with my low energy self right now. Obviously, this is me after I relapse. So, anywho, see you around. Take care. Stay strong. Stay on the path, and however many days you are in, do whatever you gotta do to not relapse. Whether that means digging deeper into your own psyche, or it means doing something as simple as a cold shower or a walk. So, yeah. Bye, and good luck.